Hello, everybody, and we're back. It is 2021.
Woohoo! Woohoo! I just finished doing a presentation. That's why I'm dressed up in my garb. We just did another high score leveraging program.
Yes.
Hey, want to do something cool for me for a sec? Can you zoom in on my cufflink? Can you zoom in on? Can you do the punch? Check out my cufflink. Oh, gotta lift it up. Check it out. It's the iPhone. How cool is that? It's a cufflink. It's an iPhone cufflink.
Yeah, but like an iPhone 4.
Whatever. It's still an iPhone cufflink. I thought they were cool, right? So I thought they were cool. Yeah, 2021.
Yes.
How cool is that? We've made it. We've made it through 2020. Mm-hmm. But what a way to start 2021 with what's going on around the world right now.
Yeah, well, let's get into some...
I think we're going to talk about that at the end of the presentation.
At the end.
To a degree. Right?
Let's get into some updates and some news.
Yeah, you got some really interesting things going on.
The last little bit. Yeah, so let's... the first update for In the News.
In the news.
2021, and you're still doing that. A main headline for today's show is the privacy drama surrounding WhatsApp. If this is your first time hearing about it, what are we talking about? Well, okay, so essentially, WhatsApp has made some changes to its privacy policy that a lot of people are not too happy about.
It's all about the Facebook overlord.
Yes.
What's your take on this?
So a bunch of news articles, social media posts have been going around the internet talking about this change and how
Facebook overlord.
Facebook has all your WhatsApp data and all that stuff. So let's actually get into this a little bit more in detail. First off, We Live Security has a quick little announcement talking about how the European Union version of the policy change has not changed. So the policy in Europe is different than the one that's here now? Yes. Or is the one here now the same as the policy in Europe? Europe's different because they have all kinds of different privacy laws that Facebook has to follow.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's different there. Now, in regards to what data that Facebook does access, here is a nice little kind of point form chart that We Live Security put together. And as you can see, phone number, when you create the account, because you put your phone number into there, your profile picture, if you choose to put one, your contacts information, transaction payments, location data, information about your device, like the operating system.
So is this any different than what was there before?
Yeah, so great article from Wired. And
reputable organization.
Yes, and essentially what they shared is, so they removed some things that they removed some words from the previous policy, but it just sort of clarifies what they were doing since 2016. Essentially, the policy change does not actually impact anything in terms of WhatsApp's practices, from what it was already previously sharing data with Facebook.
So what's the big hubbub here? Like, what's
the
issue?
Because here's in the policy, WhatsApp just labeled the Facebook family of companies.
Facebook overlord. Okay.
Yeah, basically. And because of that word change, people are like, Facebook, pointing the finger at Facebook. Yeah. But the previous policy already did include that. They just specified it. And what's interesting is the biggest issue is that because Facebook owns WhatsApp, in case you didn't know that.
They own Instagram.
Yeah, they do. They own it. But they purchased it in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Now
they've had it for a while now.
They've had it. Now in 2016, Facebook made a change to WhatsApp's privacy policy.
Is everybody following this? Like who's on first, what's on second?
Yeah.
Right? So
got it.
Okay, got it. Okay, so continue.
Got it.
Okay.
Now they made a change.
Purchase in 2014.
Yes. They made some changes in
2016.
Now in the changes was the previous policy that stated, your data is shared with Facebook. Now, if you had an account previous to the Facebook acquisition, when they purchased it,
2014,
there was an opt-out clause. And if you chose, as a previous WhatsApp user, you could have selected to have your data not shared with Facebook.
So now, Facebook overlord didn't have access.
Yeah. Now, once they owned it, there was no opt-out feature. Now, how many people actually took them up on the offer? I have no idea.
How many have ever read it?
It was sneakily added.
I mean,
it was
nobody ever reads that
it was
stuff,
a link in your account far below in the bottom.
Exactly.
It was like,
exactly.
So if you were opt-out before, now you're opt-in. Okay. So that's the only real challenge. So nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed. I mean, the reality is, and we've been saying this forever, no matter what platform, no matter what your privacy settings, everything you do online is public, permanent, searchable, exploitable, copyable, shareable, and likely for sale.
Now, this doesn't mean your messages are being seen by Facebook. Let's make that clear.
Whatever.
They have end-to-end encryption.
Where's
So
my tin hat?
WhatsApp can't see what you're sending.
Where's my tin hat?
Google can't see what you're sending. Facebook can't see. The only people who can see the messages and videos are your phone and the phone of the person you sent it to.
But if people are still concerned about that, then there's some other options out there. I mean, a good example, Signal. I have the Signal app.
Signal still collects metadata.
It does, but it's not selling that metadata to third parties.
True. Okay, that's a difference.
Right? That's the difference. So, I mean, but it's still encrypted. So again, what people need to understand is with the WhatsApp app, any messages you're sending, if I'm hearing you right, any messages you're sending are encrypted. So it's not as if Facebook or anybody else can see it.
Technically, they can't.
Right? Unless they have an encryption key that we don't know about.
Yeah, but the key is stored on the devices.
Okay, well, whatever.
Okay.
It's the Facebook overlord again.
Who's to say Russia?
But having said that,
who's to say Russia doesn't have a key to Signal?
Where's my tin hat?
I don't think we have the tin hats right now.
Okay.
I got to get the tin hats.
Okay, but I mean, the issue is really there's no changes.
No change.
It's just
only if you were previously a user in 2014 and you opted into the being excluded from collection and selling data.
But if you're somebody who's concerned about the Facebook overlord and these other companies collecting your data, then just well. That's what I think I was watching a movie on Netflix, something Overlord. I think that's why it's in my mind. Netflix, I just mentioned another Overlord, Netflix. But anyways.
There is competition Netflix now. There's Prime, Disney.
I know.
Peacock.
I know.
There's, that's NBC's thing.
Oh, okay.
It's probably not going to survive.
Yeah, did you know that's what peacocks do? That's what they sound like. Did you know that?
I'm very familiar with peacocks.
Okay, anyways. But if you're concerned about that, then for adults, you can go to Signal app. I mean, for families, you can go to our favorite, Kinzu.
Yeah.
Kinzu, right? Messaging app, specifically for families that do not collect and sell your personal data to third parties. They don't do it. And by the way,
and
Kinzu,
free app.
Yeah, it's free. And Kinzu has now come up with a new, like a FaceTime app. They call it Bit, right? Or, I should know this. They call it, anyways, they have it. It's on our webpage. It's not on our webpage. It's on our face. My brain
it's on Facebook? Did you say it's on Facebook?
The overlord. Anyways, it's there. It's pretty cool now. They listened to their followers who said we would love our kids to have the ability to FaceTime with their grandparents and that kind of stuff. But they got it set up so it only goes for a certain amount of time, so they can't stay on there forever.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of cool. Yeah, kind of cool.
Neat.
Big shout out to Kinzu. Kinzoo.
Next article and news story for the last little bit is more reports coming out talking
that looks
about.
Like somebody sitting behind a computer screen in NORAD for crying out loud. I mean,
no, that's actually, I believe that's probably League of Legends, I believe.
If it does, though, right? Like, it looks like you're in NORAD.
So essentially, reports talking about further increase of if someone's account is going to get hacked or hackers going to get access to your account. Chances are it's from a password you've used a long time ago because people do not change their passwords.
And as you're younger, you don't pick more necessarily secure passwords.
They're finding, and game companies don't always necessarily have account security as their top of priority. So a lot of data breaches and hacks targeting game companies might steal email addresses, maybe passwords, which can then be used to try and log into your Facebook, bank, email, you name it. So, yeah, if you're a C-level executive and you used to play a game as a teen on an old Flash website and you have a password and you haven't changed that password for 20 plus years,
change it.
Yeah, it's at risk.
If you remember it.
Yeah.
That's the other
thing.
If
you're using it every day.
Yeah, but still, right?
So
when you get a boomer like me, you'll know when you get older. You kind of start to forget things.
I use LastPass.
I know. Yeah, whatever.
I use LastPass.
Okay, boomer.
Okay.
Oh no, you should be saying that to me, right? Okay, Zoomer.
Okay, I'm a millennial. I'm a millennial.
You're a malooner. My brain is scrambled from this morning's presentation. It was great presentations, by the way, to the high school. Big shout out to Panorama Ridge. Panorama Ridge High School. That's who I was presenting to this morning. What else we got going?
Hey, some new updates from Intel. Intel.
Let's follow the leader. Let's follow what Apple's doing.
Has released.
That's what
now
they've done
pre-order. They now have their RealSense ID which is essentially their competitor to Apple's Face ID.
That's exactly what it is.
Which, so basically, right now is you can pre-order the little box.
So it's an external plugin that you need to add to your device, to your laptop, your desktop, whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, this is first gen. I'm assuming like they'll probably build laptops in a couple years from now that have it built into the laptop.
Still in business. I understand Intel's under a little bit of competition right now, right?
Intel hasn't done great business-wise for the last couple years.
And why is that,
especially
Brandon?
with their processors. I mean, we have just built a new PC for the studio here, and
that's Ryzen. Woohoo! Yeah, they're kicking Intel's butt right now, aren't they?
Reports are showing maybe their next processors might be better and actually will outperform.
Yeah, but now that Apple has now gone to their own chip as well, because they were using Intel, right?
Yeah, Intel just lost that market.
They totally lost that market, right? So it's very interesting. So they got to do something. I mean, they're pivoting now, right? They're starting to pivot, which any good company should do, right? So this is interesting, right? Like the form, the imitation is the highest form of flattery.
Yeah.
And like it or not, it'll be interesting. Like my hypothesis is that little box, that's probably how they're doing it. It probably escapes the copyright
Patents?
or patents that Apple has on their facial recognition. Like, because you got to know that Apple's got copyrights on that or patents on that, right?
Probably on something like that. I don't know.
I bet you that
Tech
helps.
patents are a whole area I don't want to get into.
I know.
That's just like.
But it is, I mean, good for them. I mean, for PCs, the Intel product, it's a good idea, right? Let's bring facial recognition technology and mapping to make things more secure.
Yeah, and they have the ability to like integrate it into like airport security, like door security.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
And because it's a dongle-based thing, you could like implement it tomorrow in a business.
If it's door security, why would I use that? I just use retinal scan technology, right? Retinal scan will be far more secure than that.
Would it?
Oh, for sure, because everybody's retina is specific to their eye.
So your face.
Yeah, but even with Apple's facial ID, you've seen some people now that have created 3D face models that have fooled Apple's scanning and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
right?
but like at what level? I mean, and what's useful about this?
Dun, 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 dun. Have you not watched that?
Yeah, but
those
for
shows?
retinal scans, you have to be like close.
Tom Cruise. I'm telling you right now, Tom Cruise.
Yeah, but this you could use for like, you don't have to be like super close, like a retinal scan.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah, maybe they'll like to start a car.
Yeah.
Right? Get
Perhaps.
in. Hello. And your car starts, right?
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, you could do that.
So, I mean, interesting tech, and they're going after Apple by getting a bigger market. Because Apple, you have to have an Apple product.
Can you put that into the big screen for a sec? Blow it back up again. And that little box, if you lose that, is there security risks? Is that storing anything?
No, I don't believe so. I think you still have to, how you integrate it into your business still will matter.
Do you get to see that really cool map on your face when you do it like that?
No.
Like looking at, it looks like she's got a fishnet on or something like that. No. Okay. Okay, boomer.
No.
All right.
All right. So that's that.
I knew that.
Updates from Intel.
What's the product that we're using again? Sorry, Intel. But for what it is that we want to do, this kicks butt, right? Kicks butt. So.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens with Intel's next round of processors.
Right. You're excited about this new computer we got too, right? That you're building? You're building it, right?
Yeah, building it.
What else you got in it?
Well, a graphics card, you can't find any, so we'll upgrade that eventually when they become available, although apparently there's tariffs coming into effect that will increase computer components between 7 and 20%.
Bloody hell.
Actually, reports are showing that because of the U.S. increase of tariffs, which are happening right now all of a sudden, which is really interesting, is normally Canadians pay more for tech products than Americans.
Yeah.
With these new tariffs, assuming they don't get repealed or anything in a couple weeks, is what's interesting is Canadian buyers might be able to have cheaper tech products than Americans.
Woo-hoo!
Because of these increased tariffs.
So although our dollar is not as high as the American dollar.
Yeah. So balancing it out, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of balances things out.
But you can't find any tech products because there's a shortage because of
COVID. Everybody's online,
and
right?
manufacturing.
That's why thanks to you, we were way ahead of the curve, right? And doing what it is. We had most of the equipment. During Christmas break, we bought some other stuff, right? Like, so what else did you get for the new system?
There's a new processor, a new motherboard. We got a quad Blackmagic HDMI 4K capture card.
Wow.
Increased our memory capacity. everything's digital memory now, storage, SSD storage. So hopefully,
Like if I touch it, am I gonna is it?
no, it runs pretty cool. But if need to, the case is big
I
enough.
know the case that you got has got like what 2 or 3 fans built into it.
There's 3 fans, and there's space in the case for more fans or water cooling if needed.
Cool is that? And it's got all these LED lights in it. I mean, Brandon's going to be able to have a disco party in his office with this.
Yeah,
light.
unfortunately, the graphics card's not the best graphics card I would want, but you can't find them because they're.
But it still does pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty
For
good.
what, I mean, if I want to have a break and maybe game out here in the studio when I'm not working,
On these 60-inch screens that we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool.
so that's that.
Pretty cool. And speaking of the U.S.,
PSA put out by the FBI back in December talking about how they've seen an increase in swatting incidences. Now.
what's swatting, Brandon?
When
I think swatting,
I was going to ask you that.
when I hear swatting, I think fly swatter. We both did
We both did at the same time.
So what's swatting?
Basically, someone finding out your address, your location, your information, making a bogus phone call to a police department, saying that you have a weapon, making threats, doing violence, something like that, committing a crime of a serious nature. Where the only response then from the police department is to send a task force, like a SWAT team, essentially.
Or emergency response team, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it as SWAT, right?
Yes.
The SWAT team. Yeah, and we've had a couple of those here in British Columbia, across Canada, right? So
The FBI's pointing the finger at tech products like IoT devices, like
IoT, what's that stand for?
Internet of Things.
Yeah, I'm saying that just because there's boomers on here watching you don't know what that means, right?
Essentially being smart cameras you buy for the household, for security.
Smart fridge, smart thermostats.
But they come with a default password you never change, which gives someone maybe access or to view what's in your household. So, I mean...
And is that another reason why, Brandon, like one of the cool things about Griffin, the Griffin router that we've spoken about in previous shows, anything that is the Internet of Things connects through the Griffin router as well to help protect the Internet of Things from things like
if it detects anything. There's a bunch of smart routers out there that have an increased level of security.
Yeah, you actually have the Griffin router on the site too, right? Right there, it is right over my shoulder.
That's one such router that does that. I think there's also Bitdefender, and I think
Bitdefender.
Norton has one as well.
Yeah.
Or no, I think that was discontinued.
Bitdefender's got the Bitbox, right?
Yeah, there's different smart routers now that have added security in place, which is great.
We never think about this, right? The Internet, the IoT, the Internet of Things, and how we've got to think about it from a security. I mean, where we're doing a lot of work, I know that you're working with the Provincial Transition House Society right now, and I've helped a couple of transition houses as well, where their clients, after leaving relationships, are continuing to be harassed and targeted because of the Internet of Things, because their homes are now running on IoT thermostats, and ex-spouses are now controlling those remotely. Cars, the same idea, right? Like we don't think about how integrated it is into our lives and how people can use that to their advantage in mischievous and evil and ugly ways. So, and that's what that was all about, was to warn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. What else we got going?
Another story, Google Chrome privacy plan.
That's the Cookie Monster, right?
Yes.
Do you know what the Cookie Monster is?
I'm familiar.
It's a cookie. Cookie.
Apparently, the Google Chrome browser privacy plan is being investigated by the UK.
Oh.
Now, this is an interesting
Isn't this
case.
all about security? I thought this was a good thing that Google was doing.
Yeah, Google Chrome is making some moves, and Safari's done it as well.
Why are they making these
Firefox
moves?
has. So, basically, by default, the browsers that you download, like Chrome, are having features that prevent advertisers, when you go to a website, from collecting too much information about you.
Which is a good thing.
From a privacy standpoint, it's a great thing. It's fantastic.
And isn't the reason why Google's doing this is because they're under some heavy heat right now by especially U.S. lawmakers looking at what it is they're doing?
To a degree. Okay. But what's interesting about this case is that if this is such a good thing, what's the issue?
Yeah, what is the issue?
Well, apparently UK...
I mean, what's the issue? You're trying to prevent third parties from collecting personal information that they use for advertising.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
An organization, Marketers for an Open Web, which is definitely they're biased. They want the internet to be open. People can collect data to market.
They want free range.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
So they're proposing some issues with this move from Google. Primarily, quote, basically saying, Google will effectively control how websites can monetize and operate their business. This means that any business that buys or sells advertising will be reliant on Google as part of its processes, whether they like it or not. This will reduce the ability for independent players to compete with Google, straightening its monopoly to control online commerce.
Okay, put that in English.
Basically saying, great, Google is blocking ads.
That's a good thing.
Google also sells ads. Google also facilitates ads.
Oh.
So what they're kind of saying here is that, okay, Google's making this move, but on the other side of things,
they're controlling the ads.
They're getting more control over the ads. And because I think they cited about 70% of computers use Chrome, at least in the UK, is this now potentially getting involved in competition law? Meaning that,
the Google
is
overlord.
there a monopoly over Google of, you have the browser, they can choose how your browser is being used, what ads can put on there. Competitors can't put ads necessarily on websites. Google could filter that. So, I mean, there's...
The Google overlord.
Yeah, Google, Facebook, Amazon, yeah.
I control the world. Where's my tin hat?
Oh, what would be interesting to see what happens with Skylink, with Musk is...
oh, yeah.
Right? Because that's
a kind of a cool... Maybe explain to people what Elon Musk is doing with that.
We've mentioned it before on the show in December,
It's
where
a great
basically Elon
idea.
Musk has a Skylink project, among many other projects.
Isn't that in the Terminator? No.
That's Skynet.
Skynet.
It's almost there.
Okay.
Essentially, it is a satellite-based system
Right.
that is able to provide internet to people from space.
So, which is a good thing. A good example here in Canada, northern Canada, it's really hard for communities in northern Canada to get internet access via hard lines, so they depend upon technology, right?
Yeah.
Satellite technology. So this will give or remote areas of British Columbia or any country.
They're
right?
beta testing right now, and I think right now it's only kind of near the equator is where the satellites are right now, but they're looking at expanding it across the globe. So, I mean, when you think about it, that could be a completely separate alternative to the internet.
Skynet. I think that's a James Bond movie. Or no, that's Skyfall. Anyways.
That's Skyfall, the Skylink, the Skynet.
Okay. What's the one in the, what's that game online where it's the X, with the red X? Oh, God. It was that movie series where it was a movie and then it turned into a game and it was about the virus that got in.
Resident Evil?
Yeah, Resident Evil. Didn't they have like a Skynet too?
No.
No, that was the Umbrella Corps.
Yes.
Okay. What do you call me?
Boomer?
Okay, Boomer. Anyways. But it's a pretty cool idea, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, interesting move, privacy from Google, but that means you become more reliant on Google systems to do things for you. Which makes it harder for competitors to compete.
Yeah, I mean,
So, interesting.
I'm torn, right? Like, I mean, even with Amazon, right? Especially during COVID, you know, I think a lot of companies, smaller companies, were depending upon Christmas to give them that extra financial boost, right? But the reality is, Amazon, a lot of what you can buy in stores now, you can get on is Amazon. A lot of cases, not all, but in most cases, cheaper, right? And so in
Or at least a wider variety.
right, and so
Because us consumers like our choices nowadays.
it's interesting to see how. I mean, our home is a good example. Is how many times these trucks come up delivering packages for you and your partner.
Also, they're for studio stuff.
Right, but it's also interesting when I'm looking at the rest of the neighborhood, how many of these trucks go to other homes that they're doing the same thing, right? So it is very interesting to me to see how small businesses can't keep up because what?
I saw a TikTok the other day.
What?
It was let's. I don't. Basically, we could solve vaccine rollout by having Amazon delivery do it. It'd be done next day.
If we what?
Rolling out the vaccine.
Oh,
do it via Amazon Prime. It'll be 2-day delivery.
God. They're not so wrong.
I mean, the infrastructure Amazon's put in place to have third parties and contractors do this type of stuff.
And how they're getting drones now to deliver
Yes.
stuff, right? I mean, it's just like, wow,
Yeah.
it's so
Anyways,
cool.
I saw TikTok the other day and I was like, oh, I just thought of that.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? It is interesting. So I do understand the struggle, though, about how these overlords are controlling, they're taking control and are pushing out smaller businesses and organizations, right? So now the question is once they're fully pushed out and now these overlords become the only source for products, whatever they are, does that give them a monopoly now to start increasing
Unless
prices,
you make them a public utility.
It's going to be very interesting to see what's going on.
could,
Like I can see the discussions that are happening on both sides with this, right? On both sides of the equation, right? So, but anyways. Kind of cool. Kind of cool. But you would think that the Google whole idea of preventing cookies to prevent these, that's a great idea. But then there's the other side of the coin, right? Never thought about that. So,
and Google still is like the primary method people who pay for online ads.
Yeah.
You want to put an ad online? Use Google AdSense. Yeah. That's the primary method people use.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, I was, as you know, I was looking into Google Ads for us as a company, but I kind of started to shy away from it. A lot of the business that we've got coming in, where people are calling us now, is by Google. People searching us on Google now. Funny, like just had another one from back east going, "Oh, hey, how'd you hear about me?" It's about a national organization we're going to be doing some work with. You'll learn who they are a little bit later. But I said, "How'd you hear about us?" "Oh, we Googled you. We Googled. We Googled and you popped up on Google, right?"
We have pretty good SEO.
Yeah, that tells me that the SEOing that you're doing is working now, right? It's kind of cool. Kind of cool. So, this last one is really interesting.
Yeah, power social media. You know, people posting videos, pictures. You know, people can see it, read it, analyze it.
Yeah, and how we always said that once things get posted on social media, they're public, permanent, searchable, exploitable, copyable, shareable. Pretty much. Right? Like, we know that. So with that caveat up front, what's the next one?
I'm assuming everyone knows about this by now, is that obviously there was
what happened?
Violence at the United States Capitol.
That happened?
Angry mob. Yeah.
So, right?
I mean, you can watch
5 people dead.
You can watch it step by step in terms of, you know, social media and what was being posted and shared. You were actually sharing with me the open source intelligence community. Has been able to be identifying individuals like those in the pictures here who
were fully masked. I mean, as a lot of people,
they were masked.
They were fully masked.
Go figure.
What's really interesting is, I know, especially with that group. What's really interesting is a lot of people may and don't know this, that we are OSINT. People as well, right? Like, we do a lot of OSINT, stands for open source intelligence work, where we use the internet to conduct investigations. Well, the OSINT community as a whole has been doing some significant work on identifying a lot of these problematic individuals that took place in the DC riots, right? It wasn't a protest, those were riots, right? There's a difference. You know, the Black Lives Matter, that was a protest. It wasn't a riot. This was a riot. It was an insurrection. Anyways, back off my soapbox. So a lot of these individuals were masked, right? Which makes them hard to identify. Well, OSINT has taken this up as a cause, and they're now unmasking the masked people. I mean, there was one guy in one of the galleries where you can see him. He's fully masked. I think it's inside the Senate, where he's hopping over in a bar. He's fully masked, fully decked out in camouflage and gear, and he's got flexi-cuffs in his right hand.
What are flexi-cuffs?
But flexi-cuffs are what you see police officers put on protesters primarily.
They're zip ties, but for your arms.
Yeah, they're like a handcuff, right? But they're primarily for your wrists.
Why would you need that for a protest?
But what's interesting is those flexi cuffs, he actually didn't bring them. He actually took them out of a box that was in the Senate room. So that's what the law enforcement in that room would use if they were arresting protesters. They had them close by so that their law enforcement, the Washington law enforcement, can use them. Well, this guy broke into it and took them. But there was other information that some of these protesters were actually bringing flexi cuffs to the scene, because there was some talk that they wanted to take some senators and Congress people hostage. Anyways, he was fully masked, and people go, God, it would be really nice to identify who this guy is. So the OC community took that up as a challenge. And as a result of that, within a matter of hours, they identified who this guy was because of his digital dossier, because of his digital footprints that were online, that they were able to track back to say this is who he is. And as a result of that, he's now wanted by the FBI, right? So, but having said that, I think you flashed up that picture, right? Like,
oh yeah, also cases of Canadians?
Yeah, like this is a good example. London, Ontario, and an ICU nurse who traveled to Washington, D.C. to participate in the riots, was caught on social media. It became public, and her employer now has found out about this, and as a result of that, she's being placed on unpaid leave until they further look into what's going on. So again, this is a really good example. This is what I talked to the teens this morning about in our Leveraging Social Media, how even if you have a job, you need to understand that what you're saying and doing on social media can have negative consequences on your employment, right? Because a lot of people believe, well, if whatever I say and do in my own time outside of my job in social media, my employer can't take action against me because it's my own time. false. The labor law in Canada is quite clear. Is if they can provide a nexus back to the employer that shines a negative light on the employer, well, then that employer can take action to discipline, including dismissal.
Yeah, especially if it's public and open. If it's a
Correct.
private situation, then there's the whole issue of your employer accessing private data, which is a whole other issue. But if what you say privately gets out, for example, if you say something to a best friend of yours privately, but your best friend shares that private text on social media publicly, then the employer sees that.
A good example, the NHL player, Lipsick, right, who was with the Washington Capitals. He was partaking in a private chat with his buddies. The chat was very misogynistic in nature, somewhat racist, sexist in nature. He thought it was, but it went public. One of his friends screen captured and went public, and as a result of that, shone a really negative light on the Washington Capitals, who was his employer, so they let him go, right? So this kind of appears to be what's going on here as well. So I think it's just another good example to get people to understand. You know, young people, we talk about getting into college, universities, and jobs, how it can come back and haunt you. But even for the adults that are watching right now, what you're doing in your social media can have a negative impact on current employment. And you need to understand that. And you may not agree with it. Oh, well, that's the law, right?
If
and this is where case law is going.
self-publish something for everyone to see, then anyone can see it, read it, analyze it, review it.
Or even if you're publishing something privately amongst your friends, although you think it's private, what's to stop a frenemy, that's what I like to call them, from going, ooh, this is a good thing that I can use against this person. I've been waiting.
Yeah.
They now screen capture that thing that you thought was going to be private, and now it goes public.
Yeah, and then they go, you can't share my private text I share with you, but actually they can.
And too late. It's already out there, right? So, I mean, it's just another example to get, you know, and what's really interesting about this, Brandon, you know, a lot of people think it's the kids and the youth that are doing all this stuff. We're actually finding more adults are doing stuff they shouldn't be doing with their social media, right? Like, it's true. It really is, right? And so this is just another reminder for the people reviewing us, not just the teens, but also the adults, understand that what you're doing in your social media platforms, even those that are private, that you think are private, can come back and haunt you and make life very difficult. I mean, she's been suspended without pay, and so that tells me that there's a potential that she could be fired, right? So all because of getting involved in things and producing it in social media and making it public. So
yeah.
Anyways, good show.
All right,
Back
that's that.
2021, right? 2021. Here's to 2021. You know, I think we're going to be doing this virtual stuff into 2022. I mean, if you look at the vaccines, I don't think, here in Canada anyways, I don't think we're going to even be close to herd immunity using vaccinations
Unless you get Amazon involved.
until the end of the year.
2-day delivery.
Until the end of the year, right? So I think into 2022. So, but it's really cool that we were able to pivot like we have using the technology that you've created here at the White Satter Studio, including all this new hardware and software.
We got new
Once again, what was the hardware that we just got? Some of the new hardware there. And we take no money from
No,
it. We're not
we
sponsored.
paid for this.
We're not
Although
sponsored.
AMD, if you want to set us up with some cool tech,
send it our way, man. We'd be more than happy to review it and publicly talk about it on our channel. So, but from me, I'm Darren.
And Brandon, thank you all so much, and we look forward to doing more of these shows here in 2021.
See you later, everybody.
Bye
now.
everybody.